Hello, everyone. I'm David Novak, and it's a pleasure to be here with you this morning. Thank you so much for inviting me into your circle of concern. There's a few things I want to speak with you about, but first, a story. The world was changing. The old ways were failing, and the people were hungry. And in this time of hunger and change, Wanza was growing. It was his time now to walk his path from childhood into manhood. It was his time to make a spirit's quest in the wilderness alone, fasting for several days, to seek his way forward in life. And so Wanza said goodbye to his family and goodbye to his friends, and he walked away into the wilderness. And there he built a small fasting hut with a little fire at its heart. And during the day he would walk across the land, and he would wonder about the world. He would wonder, how is it that so many things grow up out of the soil of the earth, and much of what grows there can be good to eat? But he was too weak from his hunger to wander long. And so at night, as he sat fasting beside his little fire, he listened as it sang its song at his feet. And he watched as the sparks rose up to touch the stars. And there he said, "Great Spirit, I know now what I seek. I seek a way to bring food from the earth to feed my hungry people." And a strange thing happened to Wanza that night as he sat there between the starlight of his fire and the firelight of the stars. The air began to shimmer, and out of the air stepped a tall boy. Unlike any boy Wanza had ever seen before, this boy was tall and slender. He had soft, silky hair, and he had bright green and gold in many layers of his costume. And the boy said, "Wanza, I am Mandamin. Great Spirit has heard your prayer and has sent me to give you what you seek. But first, Wanza, you must wrestle me." Wanza was amazed. Here was help, and yet he would have to fight for it. Well, Wanza was weak, but he wanted to learn. So he stood and he wrestled this strange boy, Mandamin. "Wanza, you fell down." "That is okay. I will come again tomorrow, and we will wrestle once more." So saying, Mandamin was gone, and Wanza was alone. But again the next night, as he sat listening to his fire and watching the sparks touch the stars, Wanza said, "I seek food for my people." And again the air began to shimmer, and out stepped a tall man, strong-armed and broad-shouldered, long golden hair falling over his shoulders, and deep green and gold in many layers of his costume. And the man said, "Wanza, I am Mandamin. Are you ready to wrestle with me Again. Again. Wanza was amazed. Mondamin was now a man, even stronger than before. But he wanted to learn, and so again he wrestled. Wanza, I know you can do better than that. I will come again tomorrow, and we will wrestle once more. So the next night, out of the air stepped an old grandfather. Long yellow-gray hair falling over his shoulders. Faded layers of yellow and green hanging loosely in his costume. And the old man said, Wanza, I am Mondamin. Are you ready to wrestle with me again? Again. Wanza was amazed. Mondamin was now a grandfather, ancient and wise. But he wanted to learn, and so he wrestled once more. And a strange thing happened to Wanza that night. As he held Mondamin in his arms, he could feel the wisdom of that old man pass into his heart, for he began to have a vision of the world and the way the world grows, the way roots reach down into the dark earth and sprouts open up into the bright sun. And as he felt that knowledge grow strong inside him, he could feel the old man become brittle in his grasp until Mondamin broke and fell, and for the last time spoke. Wanza, you have broken me. Now you may have your wish, my son, but you must do as I say. You must tear away these faded clothes and bury me deep in the earth, in a place where the sun can warm me and the rain can wash me. Clear that place of all roots and stones that are near, and cover me over with fresh, soft soil. Tend to me every day, and once a month cover me again with fresh, soft soil. If you do this, my son, you will have your wish. And so saying, Mondamin was dead in Wanza's arms. And Wanza did as he had been told. He tore away those faded clothes and buried his friend deep in the earth, in a place where the sun could warm him and the rain could wash him. He cleared away roots and stones he found near, and covered that place with fresh, soft soil. And then Wanza returned home from the wilderness. Now that happened in the springtime. And at that time, Wanza's people were leaving that place to find food in other places, but Wanza did not go with them. He remained behind to keep his promise and complete his quest. And so every day he came back to that place, tending to it, keeping it clear and clean. And once a month he covered it with fresh, soft soil. And so the spring passed. The summer came. The days grew long and hot, but still Wanza remained true to Mondamin. And as the summer passed and the autumn came and the world grew cool, he returned to that place and he found rising up from the earth, look, it is Mandamin. He is alive again. For there indeed was a tall, slender plant that looked just like Mandamin. It had bright green and gold in many layers. It had soft, silky hair. And as that plant grew there, it gave there a gift to Wanza and his people, a gift wrapped in green, the gift of corn, corn which cured their hunger, corn which was the meaning of the Ojibwa name Mandamin, corn which every season after that they would wrestle back into the earth in its old age and watch it rise up young again the following season. Corn, which was the Spirit's gift of grain, the food of wonder. That food that still feeds the world to this day. And this is the legend of Mandamin. Well, I hope you enjoyed that story. It feels like a fitting story for this particular spring day. Now, before I go any further, I should point out that in telling that story, I am in no way attempting to represent or misrepresent the culture of origin. I am, in true Unitarian Universalist fashion, looking for insight and wisdom where I can find it in traditions other than the ones I was raised in. That story is probably among the first of the stories of the First Nations peoples to be translated into English, written in 1856 by Henry Rose Schoolcraft, who married into the Ojibwa Nation and did some of the very first translations of Native American stories. You can learn more about that, and I'll put some notes in the liner to this video and link you to some other thoughts too regarding the issue of looking through the other eyes of other cultures, and you can go into that in a little more detail if you want to. There are a number of versions of that story now in print from 1990. There's a fine one by Joseph Bruchac, who is a wonderful poet and author and storyteller in his own right. But what I'd like to look at is, there's a few things of interest to me in that story. One is the way that a story that comes from the people indigenous to the Great Lakes and to the north and northeast part of the United States have a corn origin story, whereas the archaeological record suggests that corn originates in Central America, right? So over a period of 9,000 or 10,000 years, the little grassy plant teosinte evolves and is cultivated into the corn that they enjoy and we enjoy to this day. So the story itself, in a sense, kind of telescopes thousands of years of struggle, if you will, between the first people and the earth that they lived on as they cultivated that corn. And you have the image of wrestling that goes on in that story. And it just puts me in mind of how that cultural memory goes back so far. The other thing I like about the image of wrestling that's in that story has to do with the struggle of the person who is on the spiritual path. Wanza is on a spirit quest, after all, and he's looking for guidance, and he's fasting, and he's in a time of trouble and change, which often prompts us to go on quests. And so he has to seek help. But it's interesting to me that the help that comes to him brings a struggle with it. And however that may be, it does seem to be true that the spirits and the people who have come to give us guidance and help and insight in our lives are often the ones we have the most struggle with. So wrestling is something I've been doing with that story, within that story, and with the story itself, and within myself. I have been wrestling with that story. I've made some changes, as the story has grown and changed with me over the 40 years that I've been telling that story. One of the significant changes that I made, I should point out, I don't think you'll find in traditional retellings of the story, is that when Mondamin appears in each different night that Mondamin appears in my version of the story, he is aging. He starts as a young boy, and then he's a man, and then he's a grandfather. And I initially thought of that in terms of the life cycle of the plant itself, and how when the corn has dried on the stalk, it becomes brittle and breaks and goes back into the earth to be reborn again. But I also realized that it's an expression for me of my own inner struggles, and especially over this past year of this enforced fasting that we have all been on in the pandemic era of our lives, the way we've all been, in a sense, sent on a spirit's quest and had to struggle with many things. And I find myself almost nightly struggling with the spirits of my past, my youth, my adulthood, and my increasing old age. In one form or another, they present themselves to me and invite me to challenge and question and re-examine the life that I've been living all to this point and my own history and what I might learn from it. And I hope if I can continue this struggle with a good heart, that, as in the story, what I throw down will come back in a more nourishing and helpful way. There's something else going on in this story too, and it has to do with the earth, and hence the title of my topic, the reanimated earth, which is that it seems to me that in the modern Western tradition, we tend to think of spirits in an anthropomorphic way. We think of them as sort of human ghosts or human-like beings, like angels, for example. And so we associate the spirit realm with something other than the earth, right? With heaven above and the stars and all that. Whereas this story is a good, kind reminder that our spirit guides may be not in the sky over our heads, but in the earth before our feet, right? That if we're looking for guidance and for re-emergence and for change in times of troubles, maybe our gaze should go to the ground. Mondamin is, after all, a spirit of the earth, and our teachers and our guides and our mentors are among us in the forms of plants and animals and minerals and all of the beings that surround us, all our relations. So it is a habit of the storyteller to be an animist, for the world around has its own perspective, its own point of view, and as you go through the stories of the world, you'll find talking wolves and laughing trees and wise boulders and foolish sparrows, and all of our relations are alive with spirit and with a point of view, and I'm sure they all have something to teach us too. Anyway, it's an easy habit for a storyteller to fall into, to imagine what are you feeling right now? What are you thinking? I've caught you in this pot. Would you rather be out in the open? The weather gets harsh. I care for you. And you care for me. Oh, and I see you have a little bit of a dying leaf there. Your soil is moist, and I care for you. What are you thinking as you look at me, going about my business with the silly computer and the books that I'm reading? Perhaps I should calm down and just absorb the sunlight. But the storytelling imagination can get me in and out of trouble. With my son Jordan, I would often animate objects around us, doorknobs or the carpet or the dandelions growing in the cracks of the sidewalks. When he was in preschool, and one day we were on our way to the park, I was getting anxious to get in the car and get going. Well, he had a booster seat in the back and belt buckles, so they had to get into the whole routine, you know. But he was having a fine time just standing on the sidewalk looking at the play of light and the Japanese maples, and I was getting anxious the way grown-ups do and wanted to get him in the car, and I was on the verge of getting angry when I just decided, okay, we'll just make it into a storytelling experience, and I decided to animate the belt buckles on his booster seat. I said, I am sorry, guys. Doesn't look like we're going to the park today. Jordan's not interested. He's got other things to do. And the belt buckles spoke back. Oh, that's too bad. We were really hoping we could get out and go and do something with him. And we missed the kid because we want to get our arms around him and hug him real tight. You know how that is. Yeah, I know how that is. I love to hug him too. Well, I'm so sorry. Well, of course, Jordan overheard this conversation and got into it. He said, oh, I'm so sorry, guys. Yeah, I'll be right there. And he climbed into the seat, and the belt buckles were delighted. Oh, it's great to see you, kiddo. Come on, let us give you a big hug. So I'm fastening the buckles around his chest. You know, hey, wake up down there, Ralph. Ralph was the third buckle. It was down there on the bottom of the seat, and I pulled him up. We got the three-way buckle in there. Hey, good to see you. Hey, good to see you, kiddo. And they're all having a wonderful conversation with Jordan, and he's climbing in the seat, and everything's done. And mission accomplished. I'm back in the driver's seat, and we're on our way. But you bring something to life, and you're responsible for that life. And as we're driving, I'm driving, he's riding, and having a wonderful conversation with the belt buckles, and I'm responsible to keep them alive. So I'm throwing my voice over my shoulder, being the voice of the belt buckles, while I'm very carefully driving the car to get us to the park. And I realize this is sort of an opportunity to get into kind of a Socratic dialogue with my son. Because, you see, the belt buckles don't get out much, and they don't know much about the world, so they're full of questions. Where are we going today, kiddo? Oh, we're going to the park. Hey, what's a park? Well, it's a place where you play. Oh, that sounds great. Yeah, what's play? And so it goes on like that. But every day after that, whenever he has to get into the car, the belt buckles are there to talk to him. Hey, kiddo, good to see you. Yeah, hey, guys, good to see you too. Hey, yeah, let's go. And he's growing up in his booster seat with the belt buckles holding on to him real tight. And, hey, you're getting big and strong, man. We got to really stretch our arms to get around you these days. Yeah, I'm growing up. Yeah. So it's like that all the time. And then one day, we're in kindergarten now, and I'm taking him to school for a pizza party. And so he climbs into the seat, and I'm just the chauffeur, right? I'm just the third wheel out there driving the car, and he's having a grand old time with the belt buckles in the back seat. Hey, kiddo, where are we going today? Oh, we're going to the school. Oh, yeah, we heard about that school from you. Yeah, we're going to have a pizza party. Oh, that sounds like fun. Hey, what's pizza? Oh, it's food. It's my favorite food. You eat it. Oh, that sounds really good. Yeah. What's it made out of? And he says, God. The belt buckles don't know what to say to that. So there's a silence. I'm stopped at a red light. And Jordan calls over the seat to me. He says, isn't that right, Dad? Well, I haven't been part of the conversation. So I said, well, what? What are you talking about? Isn't pizza made of God? And I'm thinking to myself, well, this is going to be an interesting conversation about God and who or what God is. And is God this old man with the beard thing, you know, who's going around telling people what to do and punishing and rewarding and randomly messing things up? Or is there the idea of God as being omnipresent, omniscient, everywhere in everything, and everything is in God? And I'm thinking, well, you know, some of the plasma physicists would say everything is the flow of electrons, just twisting and knotting up into various different shapes, and the Aztecs would agree. Teot is what they call the spiraling dance of existence and energy, mutable into and out of every different form. And I'm going down this rabbit hole of the question of, is pizza made of God? And the light has turned green, and the car behind me honks and brings me back to awareness. And so I turn the corner and I say, why, yes, pizza must be made of God. And suddenly, everything around me was numinous, luminous. There was life and light flowing from everything. Animate, birds and trees and grass, but inanimate, concrete and street signs and tires. And it's possible that the spirit we are questing for is right beside us. And at this time of year, with this story of resurrection, may we find the way to reanimate all those helpful spirits in the earth that we share with them. Happy Easter, and thank you.